in the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean, there is a place that seems to exist outside the modern world. Thousands of kilometers of water in every direction. No nearby islands, no major shipping routes. This place is Rapa Nui, better known today as Easter Island. At first glance, it looks like a remote tourist destination. But the longer you look at this island, the clearer it becomes. Rapa Nui tells a story that feels less like history and more like a warning. It is considered one of the most isolated inhabited islands on Earth. The distance to the nearest continent is over 3,500 kilometers. Even in the age of airplanes and satellites, this island remains far from everything. Yet centuries ago, a full civilization existed here. People built massive stone statues. They created a complex social structure, and eventually, they faced a collapse they were not prepared for. Rapa Nui is small, only about 160 square kilometers in size. Its shape resembles a triangle, with 3 extinct volcanoes marking its edges. These volcanoes defined the island's fate. Fresh water collected inside their craters, a rare and precious resource in the middle of the ocean. And the volcanic stone was soft enough to carve into enormous figures. But before the statues appeared, people had to reach this island first. And that is the first mystery of Rapa Nui. According to modern research, the first settlers arrived here around the 13th century, without maps, without compasses, without knowing if land even existed ahead. They sailed into the open ocean and never returned. How they reached this place is still debated, but most researchers agree on one thing. They were Polynesian navigators with extraordinary seafaring skills. They read the stars, they followed ocean swells and winds, and they likely had no idea that this island would become a closed world for their descendants. When the first people arrived, Rapa Nui was covered in forests. Tall palm trees grew across the island. Birds were abundant. The soil was fertile. At first, it seemed like a perfect new home, but beneath that abundance was a problem no one could see yet. The island was too small, and the ocean around it was too large. Over time, the population of Rapa Nui began to grow. Small settlements turned into communities. Communities turned into a structured society with leaders, rules, and deep spiritual beliefs. At the top were chiefs and priests. They controlled land, resources, and traditions. But maintaining authority on a small, isolated island was never easy. That is when the stone statues appeared, the Moai. Today, they are a global symbol. But for the people of Rapa Nui, they represented something far more important. Moai were believed to embody powerful ancestors. After death, a respected leader's spirit could continue protecting the clan if it was given a physical form. The larger the statue, the greater the status of the family or clan behind it. What began as a spiritual tradition slowly turned into competition. Each group wanted bigger statues, more statues, stronger symbols of power. The Moai were carved directly from volcanic rock, by hand, with stone tools. Creating a single statue could take years, but carving it was only the first challenge. Moving it across the island was far more difficult. Some statues weighed tens of tons. There were no wheels, no metal tools, no animals to help, only human strength. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of people were required to transport a single Moai, and with every statue, more resources were consumed. Trees were cut down to build houses, tools, and transport systems. Slowly, the forests disappeared. At first, no one noticed the danger, but without trees, the soil lost its protection. Winds eroded the land, crops failed more often. Fishing also declined. Without wood, building seaworthy boats became impossible. Food shortages followed. As resources became scarce, tensions between clans increased. Conflicts broke out. Rival groups fought over land, water, and power. Some Moai were deliberately toppled. Sacred symbols were destroyed. As old beliefs lost their authority, the statues that once united the people now stood as silent witnesses to a society in crisis. By the time Rapa Nui entered this period of instability, it was already too late to reverse the damage. And then, something entirely new appeared on the horizon. Foreign ships. The outside world had finally arrived. In the 18th century, Rapa Nui's isolation was finally broken. Ships from Europe appeared on the horizon. For the islanders, this was something beyond imagination. The first recorded European landing happened on Easter Sunday. That is how the island received its second name, Easter Island. By that time, Rapa Nui was already weakened. Population numbers had fallen. Resources were limited. Internal conflicts had left deep scars. But the greatest disaster was yet to come. In the decades that followed, foreign visitors returned again and again, not as explorers, but as opportunists. Islanders were deceived, robbed, taken by force. In the mid-19th century, hundreds of people were captured and transported abroad as slaves. Only a few ever returned. Those who did brought diseases unknown to the island. Without immunity, entire families were wiped out. By the end of the 19th century, Rapa Nui stood on the edge of extinction. Only a small group of survivors remained. Soon after, the island was annexed by Chile. From that moment on, Rapa Nui became part of the modern world. Today, Rapa Nui is no longer a forgotten world, but it is still one of the most remote communities on the planet. Politically, the island belongs to Chile. In reality, it lives by its own rhythm. There is only one town on the entire island, Hangaroa. This is where almost all daily life is concentrated. Around 6,000 people live on Rapa Nui today. Roughly half of them are descendants of the island's original inhabitants. The connection to the outside world is extremely limited. There is no bridge, no regular passenger ships, only one airport. The Mataveri Airport connects the island to the mainland. The island's economy depends almost entirely on tourism. More than 90% of local income comes from visitors. People travel from all over the world to see the Moai, the volcanoes, and the endless Pacific Ocean. But popularity brings pressure. Decades ago, only a few thousand tourists arrived each year. Today, that number has grown many times over. For such a small island, this created serious challenges. The infrastructure struggled, the environment became more vulnerable, and local residents began to worry that history might repeat itself. As a result, strict regulations were introduced. Visitors can now stay on the island for a limited time only. They must show a return ticket and confirmed accommodation. Rapa Nui is not just a story of the past. It is a place where life continues. Here, people still speak their language, honor their traditions, and protect what remains. And on the edge of the world, among stone giants and ocean winds, a small island proves that even the most isolated places can endure.